Okay, today we are going to see what is Rayleigh-Jeans law. We try to remember what we were doing in the previous class. In the previous class, we have learned about Wien's displacement law. Okay, what is this Wien's displacement law, or what is this Rayleigh-Jeans law? If both the laws, we try to find an equation for this graph that we have obtained for black body radiation. We have seen that as the lambda increases, the energy that is emitted, that is the thermal energy that is emitted, increases, it becomes maximum, and then it decreases. In the last class, we have seen that we had tried to find an equation for this graph, and we came up with this equation, which is 8 pi kT divided by lambda raised to 4 x divided by e raised to x into d lambda, that is for total energy. But this equation was only applicable at shorter wavelengths and lower temperature, means somewhere in this region, So Rayleigh and Jeans, okay, they tried to find out an equation which should predict the whole graph. That is what we are going to learn today. So what have we to do? Now, to understand this derivation, we have to understand a couple of things. Okay, we are studying about black body radiation at this black body radiation. That means we have taken a cavity. We have taken a cavity with a very small hole, and we have heated this cavity. When we heat this cavity, the energy will be radiated. But this is at thermal equilibrium. Thermal equilibrium means temperature is constant. Temperature is not changing. Now, when the temperature is constant, see, we have to understand what we want to calculate. Then we will understand what is happening here. What we want to do is we want an equation between total energy and wavelength. We want an equation between total energy and wavelength, or it could be frequency. Now, to find the equation between total energy and wavelength, we have to understand how can we calculate this total energy. Now, to calculate this total energy, we have to understand who is emitting this energy. Black body is emitting this energy. At what conditions? It is emitting this energy at thermal equilibrium. That means the energy, let us say this is the black body, the energy that it is going to emit. Let us say this is the energy that it is going to emit. The same amount of energy it will also absorb. The coefficient of absorption will be equal to coefficient of emission. At this only the temperature can remain constant. So once we understand this, at what the black body is doing, then we can think of another situation in which the same thing happens, but where we are easily able to calculate the total energy. Because calculating total energy with black body will be difficult, because each black body will have different shape, they will have different dimensions, and how are you going to calculate? And when I mean calculate, we are thinking about theoretical equation, not the practical experimentally found out values that we have done already. We have already conducted the experiment. We want a theoretical equation. So what this Rayleigh and Jeans did was they imagined that a black body which is radiating this thermal radiation and absorbing this thermal radiation is similar to standing waves. Now, what are the standing waves? We have done in the previous classes, but let us try to understand the standing waves. Let us say this is a string and this is a ball. If I vibrate this string, there will be waves that will be formed, and these waves will travel and they will collide with the ball. Once they collide with the ball, there will be reflected wave. This reflected wave will travel in opposite direction, and when it travels in opposite direction, we will get a standing wave. Okay, let me draw it properly. This is the ball, this is the incident wave, and this is the reflected wave. This is the incident, this is the reflected wave. These both waves will interfere with each other and produce standing waves. Now, if you go to these points which are called as antinodes and these points which are called as nodes, or you go to any point, in this space. Let us say you are at this point A, or you are at this point B, or you are at this point C. Let us say this is P and Q. You go at any point in the space, the energy at that point will not change. The energy at A will be always this much. The energy at P, which is a node, will be minimum. That is because the waves will interfere destructively. Here it will be maximum because the waves will interfere constructively. But what is speciality about the standing waves is, in this space the energy will remain same, it will not change. Now see, in case of black body also, the energy is not changing. Why it is not changing? Because it is in thermal equilibrium. The energy that is emitted will be equal to the energy that is absorbed. Then only a body can be in thermal equilibrium. Same thing is happening with standing waves. The energy in the space is not changing. So we can equate this both. That means it is the standing waves energy that we can calculate, and the same thing we can apply for black body. Now calculating energy for standing waves is much more easier than calculating the energy for black body. Now total energy of this standing waves can be calculated. How to calculate it? We will have to find number of standing waves. To find the equation for energy, we will have to find number of standing waves and multiply that with average energy per wave. If we find these two factors, that is number of standing waves, and multiply that number of standing waves, that is total number, with average energy per wave, we will get the total energy. Now, this number of standing waves is also called as modes of vibration. Because as you see here, this is one mode of vibration. This could be another mode of vibration. That means the pattern is different. Each mode is having different energy. We can either calculate modes of vibration or we can calculate the number of standing waves. In both cases, the meaning is same. In your books, maybe it is given modes of vibration, but it is also same as counting number of standing waves. Now, as you can see here, there is a definite relation between the length, between this total length and the number of this nodes and antinodes, or it is directly having relation with the wavelength. Now, see this, here 1, 2, 3 are there, here 2 are there. So we can write that length will be equal to number of nodes, that is 1, 2, 3 into lambda by 2, because this section is not the total value, this section is only lambda by 2, this is lambda by 2. So we can get the total length if we multiply number of these nodes or antinodes into lambda by 2. That is the wavelength of this section. So there is a relation between length and wavelength. Total length and wavelength. Also there is a relation between the maximum wavelength that is possible will be equal to the length of that string. Will be equal to the length of that string. That means in this case, or we can say not this case. In this case, this is the maximum wavelength that is possible. This is the whole wavelength. This whole wavelength is equal to the length. So this is the limiting condition. How much longer can this wavelength be? So with the help of these two factors, we can calculate the number of standing waves. Number of standing waves or modes of vibration. Now I have shown you what happens in one dimension. Same thing we can apply for 2 dimensions and same thing we can apply for 3 dimensions. Okay. By applying this, what equation we will get is 8 pi lambda raised to minus 4 into d lambda. The equation that we will get is number of standing waves is equal to 8 pi lambda raised to minus 4 into d lambda. Now, derivation of this equation is not there for us, but it can be easily derived. So this is the number of standing waves. Now we have to calculate the average energy per wave. We have to calculate average energy per wave. Now how to calculate average energy per wave? For that, we have to understand what will be the energy of one standing wave. Now this derivation was performed by using theorem of to calculate average energy, theorem of equipartition of energy was used. Theorem of equipartition of energy was used. Now what is this theorem of equipartition? This theorem of equipartition says that at equilibrium the average energy will be equal to kT divided by 2. The average energy will be average energy per degree of freedom will be equal to kT divided by 2, where K is Boltzmann's constant, T is the temperature. Now with standing waves, so by using this theorem, what we have to do? We have to only understand what are the degrees of freedom. If we know what are the degrees of freedom, we can easily find out what is the average energy per wave. So when a wave is vibrating, when this standing wave is vibrating, we have to find what are the degrees of freedom. For a standing waves, there are 2 degrees of freedom. 2 degrees of freedom means the way in which it can hold the energy. How can it hold the energy? It can hold the energy in 2 ways. That is kinetic energy, that is when it is moving, and potential energy. Kinetic energy and potential energy. When an object vibrates, we know that when it is at this position, all the energy will be in the form of potential energy, and when it is in here, that is the equilibrium position, all the energy will be in the form of kinetic energy. Therefore, when we have a standing waves, there are 2 degrees of freedom because there are only 2 ways in which it can hold the energy. So, therefore, we can conclude that average energy will be equal to, for per degree of freedom is kT by 2. So for potential energy it will be kT by 2, and for kinetic energy it will be kT by 2. That means average energy per wave will be equal to kT. This is the, let us say this is the second equation. required to calculate the total energy. Therefore, the total energy and this is per unit volume. This is energy density. Why volume? Because we don't want the energy to depend on the shape or the size of the black body. So we should calculate total energy per unit volume. This total energy per unit volume dE will be equal to 8 pi, let us write this lambda raised to 4 in the denominator into d lambda multiplied by kg multiplied by t. This is from equation 1 and this is from equation 1 and therefore dE, that is the total energy per unit volume, will be equal to 8 pi kT into d lambda the whole divided by lambda raised to 4. So this is the equation, or this is Rayleigh and Jeans law. By using Rayleigh and Jeans law, this was the equation that was derived. But again, the problem with this equation is it is only applicable at longer wavelengths and it is only applicable at higher temperatures. It is applicable at longer wavelengths and it is applicable at higher temperatures. So again, they were able to get the equation, but this equation also was not applicable throughout the curve. It was only applicable at higher temperatures and longer wavelengths, whereas Wien's displacement law or the previous equation was applicable only for shorter wavelengths and lower temperature. So still now nobody is able to predict or get an equation for the whole graph. That is where we will see the third derivation in this series. The third derivation in the series is Planck's derivation, is also called Planck's law for radiation. So now we will try to understand Planck's law of radiation. Now again, what is this Planck's law for radiation? Again, it is same. This is an equation which will try to predict or which will try to give you an equation for the graph of black body radiation. Because we have seen neither Wien's law, neither Rayleigh's and Jeans law was able to get the proper equation for the whole range of graph. Wien's law was applicable at shorter wavelengths and lower temperature, whereas Rayleigh and Jeans law was applicable at longer wavelengths and higher temperature. So now we will try to study the Planck's law. Planck tried to find out the equation for the radiation. Now while writing Planck's law, you have to understand that he made a very important assumption. He made a very important assumption which was not there in Wien's law or which was not there in Rayleigh and Jeans law. That assumption is energy is not continuous. Energy is not continuous. He assumed that energy is discrete or quantized. Whereas Rayleigh and Wiens both had assumed that energy is continuous. So Planck assumed that energy is discontinuous and energy is given by this equation. E is equal to NhF. Okay, where values of N are 1, 2 and so on. That means N can be an integer. And where F is frequency, H is the Planck's constant. We can also write this as NhC divided by lambda, since F is equal to C divided by lambda. So we assume that energy is discontinuous and this is the equation for the energy. In the previous cases, it was assumed that energy is continuous. Now, once we do this assumption, okay, then what we have to calculate is the same thing. We have to calculate the total energy, which is equal to number of standing waves. This is the number of standing waves into average energy per wave. So, in this derivation, we are only going to derive an equation for average energy. Then we are just going to multiply with number of standing waves, because number of standing waves will be same. Now, how much is the energy? Or if we try to understand what is getting radiated when a black body emits radiation, we know that these radiations are light. And when does an object emit light? An object emits light when electrons in its atoms are able to jump from higher energy orbital to lower energy orbital. So let us say these are the orbitals with different energies. This is ground state where energy is at the lowest value. Let us call it E0. This is E1, E2, E3 and so on. The number of electrons at E0, let us say N1, N0, N1, N2 and N. These are the number of electrons in the particular energy orbital. We can also call them number of oscillators. Let us call them number of oscillators. These are the number of oscillators. Now, what we have to calculate is average energy. Now, to calculate the average energy, what we should do? We should divide the total energy. We should divide the total energy that is there in the system. Total energy means this all E0 plus E1 plus E2 plus E3 and so on. Total energy by number of oscillators. By number of oscillators that are there in each orbital, or number of electrons that are there in each orbital. So, to find average energy, there will be two calculations. One is how to find this total energy, and second, how to find this total number of oscillators. So, to find total number of oscillators, okay, what plan it was? He used this relation where number of oscillators at particular energy is directly proportional to e raised to minus hc divided by kt. Where number of oscillators, or let us first write this as E divided by kt. This was given by Boltzmann statistical interpretation of number of gas particles having particular energy. So he used this equation. This was given by Boltzmann. If we remove this proportionality sign, we will get Ne is equal to N0, that is the number of oscillators in ground state, into e raised to minus e by k into t. Okay, that means this we can write as we know E means NHC divided by lambda. So we will replace that value and we will get an equation for number of oscillators in a particular energy level as N0 e raised to minus NHC divided by lambda into kt. So we use this relation to calculate number of oscillators in each cell. Now by using this equation, we can find out what will be the number of oscillators. So let us say N1 is the number of oscillators in the first energy level. So N1 will be equal to N0 e raised to minus NHC divided by lambda kt. Now first means N is equal to 1. N is equal to 1. Therefore, N1 will be equal to N0 e raised to minus Hc into lambda kt. Same way for second orbital, or n is equal to 2. For n is equal to 2, N2 will be equal to N0 e raised to minus, the value of n will be 2. So 2 Hc divided by lambda kt. Same way we can write for N3. Same way we can write for N3. Only what we have to change? We have to change the value of n. For N3, value of n will be 3. So it will be e raised to 3 Hc divided by lambda kt. And so on. We can find every possible value. Now, what we did was we assumed that this Hc raised to, we assumed that e raised to minus n Hc divided by lambda kt equals to x. Now we'll make this substitution where e raised to minus Hc divided by lambda kt is equal to x, so that the equation becomes a little bit easier to solve. Therefore, n1 will be n0 into x, n2 will be n0 into x square. See, it will be x square because this is Hc minus Hc, and here the power is 2. 2 will take outside, that means it will be, this is x raised to 2. Same way, n3 will be n0 x cube, and so on. We can find every value we want. Now, to find the total number of oscillators, what we will have to do? We will have to add n1 plus n2 plus n3 and so on. That means we will have to add n0 into x plus n0 into x square plus n0 into x cube and so on. That means we can take n0 common. It will be, okay, what we will do is we will take this as y instead of x, because another point is there where we have to take this as x. It will cause a lot of confusion, so we will take this as y. So this will be y plus y square plus y cube and so on. Now see, this is a series. This is a series of which we can easily find what will be its final value. We can easily find what will be its final value. But what we have to remember, we have taken y is equal to e raised to minus Hc divided by lambda kt. Lambda kt. Now this is the y. Now what is going to change here? Lambda is going to change here. Lambda is going to start from some smaller value, and let us say lambda is going to go to, let us say, infinity. It is going to go on increasing. As lambda increases, this e raised to minus Hc divided by lambda kt, this is an inverse ratio. This is 1 divided by, if we remove this minus sign, this is 1 divided by lambda kt. That means this ratio, it is going to become smaller and smaller and smaller. So we can say this will be never greater than 1, or it will be less than 1. Therefore, this summation that we have, y plus y square plus y cube plus and so on, this summation will be equal to 1 divided by 1 minus y. This summation will be equal to 1 divided by 1 minus y. This is directly we are taking. This proof is there, but we are not going to see why this proof is there. Only we need to understand that this value, it is going to be smaller and smaller and smaller. So the total addition will be almost equal to 1. So we can write this summation y plus y cube and y raised to 4 as 1 divided by 1 plus y. So total number of oscillators will be n0 into 1 divided by 1 minus y. So this will be the total number of oscillators. This will be the total number of oscillators. I will write this value here so that you can take the next step. So total number of oscillators will be n0 into divided by 1 minus y. This will be the total number of oscillators. Now the next thing we need to calculate, if you remember, is the total. We need to calculate the total energy. We need to calculate the total energy. Now how are we going to calculate the total energy? For that, energy of each orbital will be equal to number of oscillators in that orbit. How many oscillators are there, or how many electrons are there in that orbit, into energy of that orbital. Now we almost know both the things. This energy of the orbital is given by the equation E is equal to nhc divided by lambda. And number of oscillators we have already found. Number of oscillators is n0 into x square and n0 into x cube. So we will try to find out number of oscillators for E1. For E1 it will be, number of oscillators will be n1 and energy of that orbital will be nhc divided by lambda. Now n is there, that means value of n is 1, so it will be hc divided by lambda. This is for first orbital. n1, if you remember, is nothing but n0 into x hc divided by lambda. Same way, since n1 is equal to n0 into x, this is what we have found in the previous steps. Same way we can find E2 will be also n2 nhc divided by lambda, where value of n is 2, so it will be 2 n2 hc divided by lambda. We know n2 is n0 into x square. n2 is n0 into x square hc divided by lambda. n2 is n0 into x square. Sorry, we have taken y, so we should use y, because x we are going to use somewhere else. Okay, that means now we can see the pattern. What is the pattern? This will be same, n0 hc divided by lambda. This quantities will be same. What will change is this y. It will go on increasing from y to y square y cube, and here it will be 1 2 3. That means E3 will write directly this 3 n0 y raised to cube hc divided by lambda. Now similarly we can calculate all the required values. Now what we need to do is to find the total energy. We will have to add all these orbitals, E0 plus E1 plus E2 plus E3 and so on. Okay, E0, try to remember, E0 is the ground state. It is the starting point. The energy in the ground state is 0. Energy in the first orbital is n0 y hc divided by lambda. For second orbital it is 2y square hc divided by lambda. For third orbital it is n0 3y cube hc divided by lambda. and so on. So what we can take common here? We can take common n0, h, c and lambda. These are all the things we can take common. What will be left inside? 0 plus y plus 2y square plus 3y cube and so on. And so on. Now again, this is a series. Again, this is a series whose value is already found. This series, let us say S2, will be equal to y divided by 1 minus y bracket square. 1 minus y bracket square. So total energy is equal to n0 hc divided by lambda into y 1 minus y bracket square. So we have this total energy and we also have the total number of oscillators. So we will divide these two things, E total divided by N total. This will give us the average energy. So what do we have for E N0 Hc divided by lambda y 1 minus y bracket square. In the denominator what we have? N0 divided by 1 minus y. This N0 will cancel out, so we don't need to find number of oscillators, and 1 minus y will go in the numerator. Hc divided by lambda 1 minus y into y divided by 1 minus y bracket square. 1 minus y and this square will cancel out. Y we will divide here, we will divide inside, and this is what we will get. 1 by y, 1 by y minus 1. 1 by y minus 1. Okay, this is the average energy. This is the average energy. Now to find the total energy, if you remember, total energy is given by number of standing waves multiplied by average energy. Number of standing waves multiplied by average energy. Number of standing waves we have already calculated, 8 pi lambda raised to 4 into d lambda and average energy. This is the average energy multiplied by Hc divided by lambda into 1 minus 1 by y minus 1. 1 by y minus 1. Now we will rearrange this equation. Rearrange this equation means this will be 8 pi lambda raised to 4. 8 pi lambda raised to 4. Lambda raised to 4. In the numerator here we write Hc divided by lambda, and in the denominator, now see, y means it is e raised to minus Hc divided by lambda k into t. Y is this value. If you remember, we had taken y as equal to this. We will replace this value here. We will replace this value here. That means it will be e raised to minus Hc by lambda kt. It is minus, so we take it in the numerator. That means it will be e raised to hc divided by lambda kt minus 1. Okay, now almost we have the final equation. Okay, now here what we are going to do? Here we will take another substitution. hc by lambda kt, we will take it as x. We will take it as x. Therefore, this hc divided by lambda will be x k into t. X into k into t. These two substitutions we will make in this equation. So, total energy, that is dE, will be given by 8 pi lambda raised to 4. I have forgotten here d lambda. hc by lambda. hc by lambda means kt into x divided by e raised to, this is x, e raised to x minus 1. Okay, this is the final equation for Planck's law. This is the final equation for the Planck's law. Now what we have to understand is that this equation is applicable for the whole graph. It is applicable at shorter wavelengths and it is also applicable at longer wavelengths, at lower temperatures and at higher temperatures. Now, if it is applicable for all the values, then we should be able to verify this law. So the last part of this is verification of Planck's law. Now, how to verify this law? Verification of Planck's law. Now we can verify this law by seeing what are the values at lower wavelengths and what are the values at higher wavelengths. Because at lower wavelengths it should give us the Wien's displacement law. If you remember, Wien's displacement law was applicable at shorter wavelengths. So this equation should be converted to Wien's law for shorter wavelengths. And for longer wavelengths, it should be converted to Rayleigh's and Jeans law. If it is able to do that, then this is the exact equation or this is the right equation. So, what we will do? First, we will test for shorter wavelengths. For shorter wavelengths, now we have this e raised to x minus 1. We know that e raised to x means it is hc lambda kt. Okay, now what is going to change? Lambda is going to change. Lambda will tend to, let us say, 0. Wavelengths are shorter. How much short they can become? They can be close to 0. If lambda is close to 0, that means this whole part, it will be hc divided by 0. That means this e raised to x will tend to infinity. Value of e raised to x will be very, very large. Therefore, we can say e raised to x minus 1 will be approximately equal to e raised to x. Subtraction of 1 from infinity will not change its value because it is a very large value. So we will get e raised to x. We will change this value in the equation. So for shorter wavelengths, the equation will become 8 pi kt divided by lambda raised to 4 x divided by e raised to x. X divided by e raised to x. Now this is exactly equal to Wien's displacement law. This is the same equation that is given by Wien's displacement law. So first step of verification is successful. Now we'll see next step of verification. For next step of verification, we will take longer wavelengths. We will take longer wavelengths. Now if longer wavelengths are there, that means again same steps, lambda will tend to now infinity. If lambda is becoming infinity, that means this is a very large value. This e raised to x will tend to 0. E raised to x will tend to 0, and e raised to x minus 1, e raised to x minus 1, then e raised to x will be 1 plus x. E raised to x will be 1 plus x. Then e raised to x minus 1 will be 1 plus x minus 1, that is equal to x. So this term will be equal to only x. Let us substitute this value. dE is equal to 8 pi kt divided by lambda raised to 4 x divided by e raised to x minus 1, that means x, this both will get cancelled, the answer will be 8 pi. Okay, one more thing we are forgetting here. Here also I forgot to write d lambda is there. I have not included d lambda, but d lambda should be there. 8 pi kt into d lambda, this will be kt divided by lambda raised to 4 into d lambda. This is the exact equation for Rayleigh's and Jeans law. Rayleigh's and Jeans law. So Planck's law of radiation verifies with Weit's displacement law at shorter wavelength, and it verifies with Rayleigh-Jeans law at larger wavelengths or higher temperature. So this is about both the derivation. Both the derivations are important. Try to understand the sequence and the logic. Then it is very easy to derive. Thank you.